Hey everybody, it's Money Man Cam from Stocks Blending. We're just going to go ahead and take a look at some of the indexes today. We did have a pretty strong sell-off that kind of evaporated any of the gains that were made yesterday from the post FOMC commentary. Now, I am going to go ahead and show you the SPY, QQQ, IWM. We're going to go ahead and go over the VIX. And then finally, we are going to take a look at Bitcoin and maybe we'll take a look at Ethereum and Solana as well. So we're just going to jump right into it. First up, we have the SPY on a daily chart. Now, as you guys know, I haven't really been following the daily chart a whole lot. I've really just been relying on intraday timeframes and then the 4-hour chart for more clarity. But I always like to take a look at the daily candles just so we can get a better idea of, the overall market action if we had to summarize it in one candle. So really, all this tells me is okay. We barely were able to break above resistance. Actually, we didn't even break above resistance. We broke above the 200 SMA on the daily, but we were not able to break above the 9 EMA. So that served as a pretty harsh level of resistance. And then we just completely sold off, and there was really no end in sight. I don't even think we had any intraday relief rallies that were notable. And really, just the big takeaway here is close below the 200 SMA and a very, very strong close below our channel that or below our symmetrical triangle that we had drawn on the 4-hour chart. So let's go ahead and take a look at our 4-hour chart now so we get a little bit more clarity. So usually whenever I do drawings, I try not to tamper with them unless there is some pretty significantly, new data or developments. This is just the same symmetrical triangle that I drew, I think, in the last video last week. So remember how I said I would only be taking a trade once we broke below. We did trade spy puts quite a bit the last few days, and actually I had success every time I traded them. Now, yesterday, I unfortunately traded QQQ puts pre FOMC. I knew what I was getting into. I sold half my position for about 10% profits. And then FOMC came out. There was like a spike in volatility. It was crazy. The position shot up to like 19%, but uh, it actually held the support level. And that's when I should have exited. But unfortunately, my timing was off. And I actually ended up taking about a 60% loss on that trade. So I didn't trade today. I just kind of wanted to get more clarity, and today really just gave me that, clarity. Because look, this is a pretty clear break. The next level that I'm really eyeing here is going to be about 435.5. If we go ahead and add our auto fib retracements, we can see that, yeah, about 434.5, 434.34. Around that level is going to be our next level of support. So that's probably the first level of support that I'm going to be watching. If we can maybe hold this level tomorrow, then maybe we can see a short-term relief rally. But yeah, for now, this is the level that I'm watching. Now, if we break below it, I think we will be heading lower. I think SPY 420 uh, could be a reality. We talked about this last week, how overall this is a pretty bearish trend. And right now, there are a lot of headlines. I mean, the other day we heard, oh, war is not going to happen. Markets rallied. And then today, there's news that the Russian embassy in Kiev was burning documents because there was chimney smoke, and that could be implying, a possible invasion. And then there was a troop buildup. So really, the markets are reacting day by day. Some people are arguing that it's not really the war concerns because historically, every time there's been some sort of conflict like this, markets haven't really reacted all that crazily. And it's just more about inflation and the broader macroeconomic concerns as well. Now, something that was interesting in the FOMC, and this kind of caught me off guard. I thought that they were gonna be a little bit more hawkish and, announce some new policies or at least something to curb inflation. Whether it was a increase in the increasing the basis points by which they're gonna hike rates, or just some sort of action. But really, it was just some very, very light commentary. They just mentioned supply chains could be easing. and really that the big decision is going to be in March. So I think up until March, we don't really have a whole lot that we can do, and I think honestly we're just probably going to see the market kind of grind lower until we get more clarity regarding that. Um, you know, uh, Rising rates and maybe at the conclusion of the Olympics, we're going to see if Russia really does anything or not. Personally, I really hope there's not any conflict. I hope everything is solved diplomatically, but um, unfortunately, the world um, doesn't always defer to diplomacy. Anyways, 435.34 is the level I'm watching. And then probably my next level of support, I wouldn't say we're going to drop straight to 427.49. I think it could be a slow grind down. Let's go ahead and check our hourly chart. So probably the next hourly level of support that I'm seeing right here is probably around 431. And the reason why I'm saying 431.91 is notice how these wicks have, for the most part, kind of held this area, this kind of this range. So yeah, I would say about 431.91 is probably the next level to watch, and then I would say 429 ish. Then we could drop down to 427.49. Um, like I mentioned, I didn't trade today. We did have a spy put that we had bought last week. And, I specifically mentioned it as a hedge in case, things would go south. The SPY put, I believe it was up 43% at one point. I told people in the group to take profits if they wanted to. I personally kept it as just as a hedge. And, that paid off today because today markets dumped. My portfolio was completely flat. Any of the unrealized losses that I had were completely negated by the gain in my SPY put. So that was a pretty successful hedge in my book, in my view. Um, you know, do I think we're probably going to go lower tomorrow? Yeah. So it expires tomorrow. $443 put. I wouldn't be surprised if I could close it out for some profit. If not, it's not really a big deal for me. I'll keep the stop loss tight on it, and the hedge did its job for me. Okay, so QQQ, yeah, tech. It's a very precarious position right now. If you have a long-term outlook, then obviously companies, like Google, Nvidia, I know that just had earnings, Amazon. I think all these companies are going to be doing just fine down the road. It's really just kind of this short-term volatility that you can take advantage of and maybe establish, longer-term positions. Obviously, don't throw all your cash in at once. Just kind of dollar cost average into it. That maybe wouldn't be a bad idea. Not financial advice, of course, but let's see. So, big thing I'm watching here is if we can retest this 9 EMA on the hourly. So about 347.85 is level I'm watching here. And so the main reason why I'm actually watching the hourly on QQQ rather than say the 4 hour, go ahead and head on over to the 4 hour, is because we did get a little bit of strength near the end. So for me, that's telling that okay, I need to go to an intraday time frame, and I need to just be eyeing the short-term levels of resistance that could hold. And so for me, 346.1, obviously it's our fib that could hold potentially, but I wouldn't be surprised if SPY, for example, was able to pump a little bit in the morning. If we test this level of resistance, probably around 347.85. Um, then I think that would be the time to go into puts once we see a little bit of weakness in a broader market. Then you pounce, and then it's simply just going to be the move lower. So, I also have 342.2 as the next target. So, if you're able to buy a put maybe around 347, then we start to kind of grind lower. Maybe you could take profits along the way down, and then we retest this bottom. So short-term target for me is going to be maybe enter a put around 347 level of resistance, and then take it down to about 342, and kind of sell as it moves down to just secure gains. I mean, this just was a pretty brutal candle today. Oh, oops. On a daily, I think maybe the market finally is digesting FOMC news. Obviously, they reacted kind of happily to it. But I think now the realization is setting in that, oh, this is going to create bigger problems because March is going to have an even bigger impact on the markets. So maybe they're anticipating right now that this event is going to have pretty significant implications, and maybe people are kind of reshuffling and exiting positions or adding new ones beforehand. So that's kind of the way I'm seeing it. Um, let's see. Yeah, so 342, then maybe about 341.84. And then if these levels are not able to hold, then yeah, I think we're going to probably see QQQ move lower down into the mid to low 330s. Okay, so IWM, if you remember last week, we talked about how there was this inverse head and shoulders forming. We did break out and we hit a high of 209. But right now, we're actually just kind of ranging and we're actually holding up fairly well. I mean, $200 has been a pretty critical level of support. Um, so that's really just the same thing. I mean, I haven't been trading IWM, but I'm really just watching $200. I will say though, on the 4-hour chart, if we take a look at this, sure, we do have a higher low, but if we break below 199.26, then I'm probably going to be looking at 194.32 as the next level of support. And the main reason why is because, look, now you're going to have a confluence of your 50 SMA that we thought was going to cross over, but looks like it might not be, and your 100 SMA. That is a very, very strong level of resistance. And then you also have your shorter term moving averages above that kind of seem to be moving lower. So, if we do get a rally and are somehow able to hold above this level, that will be a good sign. I think that IWM will still have a little bit more to fight. But if not, then I think we will see a move lower. Really, the big thing to watch is a break below 199.26 because if we break this level, let's see, 199.26, 199.27, close enough. If we break this level, then really there isn't a whole lot of support until about 194. And then from there, it's going to be a move down probably to 188. So just keep an eye on this. A lot of the growth names have been crazy volatile. I mean, you have days where they're up 7%, and then you have days where they're down like 8% and so forth. So, really, right now, I think this is just a trader's market. If you are looking to invest for the long term, buy on red days. Do not buy on green days, is what I would say, because you can see these positions move like 8%. And as an experiment, I actually added in my watch list a leap that I was following, and it was actually a position on Square for 2024. And I added on a red day. This was when it was about $101, and the next 3 days it pumped all the way up to about $121, and that leap was up, I think, nearly 30 to 40%. And then about 3 days later, I think Square dropped all the way down about 106, and now it's only up about 10-15%. So still a good gain, but um, yeah, I mean, these things are just crazy volatile. If someone had bought a leap at like 120, 124, and then now Square's at like what, 106, 105, then obviously you'd be down kind of significantly on that. But then again, that's why we buy leaps, right? Or for a longer term, so we won't feel the effects of volatility as much. Okay, so now that we have our levels, let's go ahead and take a look at the VIX. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. Really, this is just the level to watch right here. As of right now, we're just forming lower highs, a little bit of a tightening range here. Not a whole lot to say. We just want to see VIX come down. If we do break above, let's see, if we break above 30, then I'm going to be looking at a double top here. If we break above 32, then okay, probably that's when we're going to see, SPY and QQQ probably move lower. And then we could see a retest of 37, 38. So that's just how I would play that. Okay. And for Bitcoin, I mean, there isn't really a whole lot to say right now. Really, the big thing to watch is, sorry, let me readjust. Big thing to watch here is we have support at about 39,400. If this level breaks, then we're probably going to be just taking it a couple $1,000s at a time. 37.8, 35.7, and then maybe we could be testing the weekly 100 SMA probably around $32,000, $33,000. Really, the best way to play crypto, in my opinion, and this is just what I've done and I continue to do, I just set limit orders at these levels of support. And then if they fill, they fill. And if not, no harm done. But you're getting in at a price that you know has a pretty high chance of getting a bounce on. So that's really just how I would play it. Really, this candle was not the most ideal, but right now Bitcoin is still moving in tandem with the broader markets. So not a whole lot to say there. Just keep an eye out for this 50 SMA. If we could hold above it and we could push back towards 45,000, I think that would be a really, really bullish sign. Ethereum, again, kind of a similar situation. Just watch that daily 50 SMA. If we can hold it, that would be a really, really strong and bullish sign. Then we could probably take Ethereum back to about 3,500. If not, you know, just, again, you have your fib levels of support. Um, I would say probably 2,700. It's not a bad level. Historically been a pretty strong level for us. If not, probably we're going to see a retest of 2,400 and then maybe 2,100 as well. But that would probably be the absolute lowest. I don't see us going any lower. Solana, one of my favorite blockchain projects. Really, really loving it. Obviously, it's kind of been under a lot of stress and pressure the last few weeks. Um, and this has definitely shown in its performance relative to the broader market. I mean, Solana usually is a little bit more volatile than Ethereum, which is more volatile than Bitcoin. Um, Really big thing to watch here is we have kind of just been trending sideways here. We could potentially, this is a pretty big hypothetical, be forming perhaps an inverse head and shoulders. But what we would need to see is we would need to see a pretty strong green day, then a retest maybe of maybe about between 89 to 96, and then a break probably above 114, which we identified as a strong level of resistance. So really, Solana, I would maybe set some limit buy orders if you're interested, probably around $80.67, and then maybe a lighter load at about 89.51. So really, those are the levels that I'm watching. If we can break above these levels, then remember, 112 to about 122 is going to be your level of resistance to watch, especially because we do have that 50 SMA on the daily. Yeah, we do have a death cross that has formed here. But remember, these things sometimes they are impactful, sometimes they're not. If you look at a lot of the on-chain metrics, Solana continues to be a leader in the amount of developers, developing on it, the amount of projects that are being launched on it. So I still remain very, very optimistic about this project, and I think, at these levels, I don't think it's a bad buy at all. So that concludes our little market overview and analysis. Let's just double check to see if we have any major events going on tomorrow. As far as I know, tomorrow we just have, let's see, we just have jobless claims, housing starts month over month, and then we do have. Oh, oops, I was on today's. Okay, so tomorrow we really just have existing home sales, and then quite a few people from the Fed are going to be talking. We have Evans, Waller, Williams, and Brainerd speaking tomorrow. So those are kind of the events to watch out for. I think tomorrow we could probably see a grind lower, or maybe a slight relief rally, but I don't think it's convincing enough for me to have a bullish view on the broader markets. If I do play anything, again, it's going to be posted in my Discord. So feel free to check it out. The link is going to be in the bio down below. If you join, you do get a 7-day free trial, and you get all insights, you get trade alerts, and you get a fantastic community to trade with. And we're always learning, we're always sharing with each other, always collaborating, and it has yielded good results for us. So we will see you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let us know if you have any questions down below. Take care.